Hey guys, welcome to the Field of 68 YouTube channel. If you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button and you'll get more college basketball content just like this.
The number one team in the country, the team that some feel like was a notch above everybody else. But as you said earlier, Dalen, I'm not sure they were a full notch. I think they were maybe a half a notch, a quarter notch ahead. And they go to Nebraska, not an easy place to play, and a team that honestly is much better than I think a lot of people thought they'd be this year. Right? I mean, they've Tominaga is terrific. Juwan
Yeah, he was
Gary's
great.
tough. Wilker's good. Rink Mass was a huge addition through the portal this year from Bradley. This is a tough place to play. Nebraska makes shots. And you know what? Purdue just did not guard tonight. And they didn't get the big boy enough touches down low. Dallin, what's your biggest concern? First, we'll start with Purdue, because you said earlier you don't think they're a team that can win 6 straight.
I think they can win 4 straight. I don't see them winning the whole thing, but I think they can get themselves to Phoenix. The biggest thing is it's obviously the reigning national player of the year is the thing. He had 2 fouls early in this game, and after that, Nebraska went on, I think it was a 13-0 run to close the half. And Tominaga was great. I think he had 12 in that first half. Other guys made shots, and partially because they were open and they were good looks. And then the second half, I'll tell you what is impressive about you all. Every time Purdue made a little run and cut into that thing, Nebraska had a counterpunch every time. A lot of times it was shot making. Sometimes it was Purdue being a little, again, like I said earlier, lackadaisical defensively, missing some assignments, going under handoffs they should go over, not communicating on some screening action. And edey was not able to have the impact of a game that he needed to, partially because of foul trouble, and then because of how the team got behind. The last thing I will say is the concern, big picture, is that they run into teams that can either he gets in foul trouble, put him in compromising positions to get him in foul trouble, or if you can space the floor and have him chasing people around, that doesn't maximize what he does best, which is obviously protect the rim, rebound, and then score on the other side in the interior. So those are things that are critical. And I think when you have a guy that's as impactful and unique on your team, it gives you a lot of benefits. But at the same time, when he's not there, able to perform at the same level, they aren't as dynamic. And they didn't guard tonight. They have guarded well, much better this year than I think they did last year. And they have to put it together. They're not good enough to just walk into even Nebraska, which is a tough place to play, as you mentioned. But you can't walk in there on the road and think you're just going to roll the balls out and win. It's just there's nobody in the country that's that good this year, and that rarely is. But there are sometimes. Baylor a couple years ago, Gonzaga in recent history, obviously what conference you plays in factors in that. Houston in recent history because with the conference they played in, it's not like that for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, again, they got Lance Jones. That helped them defensively. But he's not a guy that's going to completely change that. You got Lawyer and Braden Smith. They're still limited what they can be on the defensive end, Tyler. Is that your biggest issue too? Because they can score. We know Edey on most nights, he's going to get his 25 and 10 or 12. Tonight, again, he was held in check, 15.7 boards.
Well, Edey doesn't have a long history of getting into foul trouble. I know he got in foul trouble last game against Illinois too. But if he's in foul trouble, they're vulnerable anyways. He's there's no other team in college that relies on one player like Purdue relies on Edey. But I do think that even though Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, they're a little bit limited defensively, they have made big steps this year. I think they've improved a lot, especially Braden. I think he's been more consistent, had consistent scoring nights, which has really helped them. But the thing that is really head scratching to me is they probably have played one of the toughest schedules in college and have beat the most impressive teams out there. But then all of a sudden they let these games slip to Nebraska, then Northwestern. And, I can't figure that out, how they lose that and why they're so vulnerable on some nights and so great on some others.
I think it's because they're not dominant. Again, they're a very good team, but they're not a great team. And they still do have 2 sophomores in the backcourt, right? I mean, they're not grown men like some of these guys at Nebraska are. You look at Fletcher Lawyer, and he looks like he's $155. I mean, he is. He's small. Braden Smith's small. They're tough. They're mentally tough kids. But again, I think they can be pushed around a little bit, and they're not great defensively, as we saw tonight a little bit. This is a very good team, but the gap just isn't nearly as big as it's been in years past. Do you worry about them, Dallin, winning Like, this was actually good in a way for the Big Ten. Okay, it was good
Yeah,
because
even more
Nebraska
competitive.
now. Correct. It makes it more competitive, and Nebraska now moves up. They were, on the fringe. Now they're legitimately probably an NCAA tournament team today with that win.
Yeah, it's huge for the conference, and it's good for the competitiveness of the league. I will say this team relies on a team outside of Edey. There's not a guy that can help take them over a game and make up for what he does or do something else, either wins with it, can impact the game and can kind of just like take over a game. Not a lot of teams have that guy, but when Edey's not there, there's a lack of dynamism on this squad and on both ends of the floor that I think is exploited.
Thank you for watching the Field of 68. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, hit that like button, share this link with your friends, or check out the description for some other places that you can consume Field 68 content.